What makes a person boring? One-dimensional personalities. Like the always negative guy, the I only talk about work girl, or the all we do is talk about our pets or children couple. You get the gist. When they only talk about other people, like talking bad things about people as their only personality. Talking about nothing but themselves. Alternatively, saying nothing about themselves. The key is find a happy medium. Agreeing with everything you say but never offering anything unique. Agreed. Having their personality centered around one single thing, and only that thing. I'm a boring person. My brain is pretty much screaming in agony after reading this thread because I could relate to some parts but not to others. So I can't tell if I'm boring, not boring, or even half boring. That means you can be boring to one person and very interesting to another. This is how it works, I guess. I've met people who everybody adored but they seemed completely boring to me. When they agree with everything you agree with. You need to have your own opinions. I totally agree with you, dude. No sense of humor. Is this supposed to be a joke or something? 'Cause I'm not laughing. My dad used to always say this, if you're bored, you're boring. I used to hate it, but there's some truth that the people in this world who are interesting are people who can find wonder in any situation. Reminds me of the phrase, interested is interesting. My interpretation is that you can have an engaging conversation with someone simply by listening to them and expressing interest in what they're saying. Make encouraging noises, ask follow-up questions, etc. These are called verbal nods, and it's something I was taught when I worked in a call center. It's even more important on the phone because they only hear your voice, and if you don't make noise it can lead to them wondering if you're even there still. But then I found it transferred amazingly into real-life face-to-face conversations. Definitely one of the more useful skills I've learned, and one of the few good things that came out of that job. Especially for a shy introvert with poor conversational skills. Lets me just listen to what other people are saying and actually convey to them that I'm genuinely listening. Which I always am, but you have to show it. Relying on other people to make all decisions. I think I should upvote this. Should I? Not being able to have a meaningful conversation. I sometimes struggle with this. There are people I can talk to easily, without seemingly running out of things to say, ask, but if I feel I'm the one who has to initiate I tend to get really wrapped up in my head about what to ask, say next, and then assume the other person must think I'm dull 'cause I can't chit-chat like a regular person. Then I see other people who can talk to anyone about anything and I'm like, was I sick the day they taught the talking like a normal person class at school? Having zero interests outside of work. What about having zero interest in work? That would describe me. Not recognizing when no one is interested in what they're talking about. This skill is one of the worst to learn, because you were always telling something you were excited about and realized no one else cared. Sad face. I used to do this a lot with my wife. I'd find myself apologizing for boring her with stuff I was interested in when she was genuinely interested and actually listening to me. My exes hated the stuff I was passionate about and it made me apologies for being interested in something. I came here to be enlightened, not to be described, SMH. Not being passionate about anything. I'm passionate about being unpassionate. When they don't ever do anything spontaneous, and act as if anything different, unique is weird and embarrassing. Oof. This is the first one that's really got me. Also nothing worse than someone asking or expecting me to do something out of my comfort zone like karaoke or dancing. The second you want me to do it, it creates this imaginary pressure to me, and even if I might do it on my own, I definitely want now. I get embarrassed way too easily at things that no one would consider embarrassing. This isn't the only thing, but being so apathetic that you never express a real opinion or initiate a conversation, activity. The guy who says, I guess I like all music or its variation, everything but rap and country, if you ask what music he likes. The guy who says, I don't really follow politics, if you mention literally any current event, no matter how apolitical. The guy who always says, whatever you want to eat is fine. The guy who watches the TV in a trance when a football game is on, but doesn't get excited if his team is winning or losing because I don't really follow sports. The guy who has no favorite books or movies or video games, who doesn't have any hobbies aside from playing the same video game or drinking the same beer at the same bar, the guy who's never got anything to say, positive or negative, about anything around him. Everything and everyone are fine. He kind of likes stuff, I guess, in that he doesn't particularly hate it, but you also don't know if he is capable of hating anything because he never branches out of a narrow range of basic things. Or if he does, it's never, wow, that's for introducing me to that, I like it, or OMG, never expose me to that, it's awful. You show him a movie that doesn't star Adam Sandler or involve explosions, and it's IDK, it was kinda weird I guess haha, this guy likes to paint himself as easygoing, chill, and lacking drama. But in reality, he is boring. He confuses a lack of tension with positivity. This doesn't mean that liking music, books, politics, sports, movies, or drama makes one interesting, but it at least gives a person something to talk about. If everything is IDK fine, the ability to converse, connect, and expand is dead. I wish I could say that most of these guys are heavy stoners and are just too high to be expressive, but I have met plenty that have never touched a drug in their life. Honestly, a lot of it comes down to storytelling. I remember listening to one of my cousins tell a story, and I realized it was super boring but I was super interested, so I started paying attention to the way she tells stories. I like to think people are more interested in what I have to say now. No creativity, no original ideas. Everything is predictable. People with no hobbies, skills. I remember always struggling to answer those questions, what are your hobbies, and in hindsight, I was just super dull and barely living. Spending every bloody second of every minute of their life on Facebook. As opposed to Reddit. Close-mindedness. If you can't appreciate a different lifestyle, opinion, belief, etc. because yours is the right one, then I can't hold a conversation with you for more than 30 seconds. People whose only activity in life is smoking weed and drinking alcohol, talking about smoking weed and drinking alcohol, talking about how high or drunk they were, and wondering when the next time it is that they will smoke weed or drink alcohol, while also being very loud about all of it, in public, in front of anyone. People who talk at length about people I don't even know. My sister-in-law has been telling stories about her grandpa for 20 years. I've never met him. They aren't funny stories, just things he used to say, do, etc. Boring is subjective. What's fun for me is boring to you, so don't come at me and say me playing video games and watching anime is boring, as that's what I like. I'm quite a boring person. I'm very talkative and have interests and hobbies that most other people don't have or can't relate with, so when I talk about them and in my mind I'm being very passionate, the other person listening is getting bored to death, especially because I'm very old school, so most people perceive my interests as mom, granny things, which just adds to the lame, boring vibe. Also, I am not comfortable being silent and sometimes keep talking for the sake of it. This one gets so boring even my boyfriend admits sometimes he gets sleepy listening to me talk like that. If you have utterly nothing in common with them, chances are you bore them just as much as they bore you. Tends to happen most with friends of a friend. If their identity is rooted in rejecting things they dislike, instead of embracing things they like. It makes a person small, unidimensional and disconnected from the world. Have you ever noticed how, when people communicate their unpopular opinions, it's always something they dislike? Disliking things has become a trend, because by disliking something you risk absolutely nothing. By embracing something unpopular you do, and you actually become an individual. I know this girl whose personality is essentially I only type in caps because it makes me seem crazy haha xd, her entire gimmick is that she's insane, shouts all the time and thinks that gore and murder is cool. I'm aware that it doesn't sound boring to y'all, but after knowing her for almost a decade and it never changing, the whole thing just gets pretty tedious. Having a personality built exclusively around weed. I like the experience of it myself, but when all you can talk about are different strains and how it totally cures cancer, then please kill me instead of talking. I was just about to say that. I used to smoke all day and every day and all my friends at the time did so too. Most stoners that I know, including myself at the time, only talk about weed, getting high and lecture people about weed. I love weed, but those kind of people are boring ASF. I don't know how to explain myself, so I am telling a story. About 4 months ago I started dating a girl of my class. At first, our conversations were normal, just okay, we were just getting to know each other and often we were telling each other about things that had happened to us during the week. The conversations quickly became monotonous once we knew each other enough. The only thing we talked about, literally, was how she was doing in his music school and how much stress she had. They demanded a lot but still liked music, so she continued to attend his classes. She didn't have hobbies, favorite books, favorite movies, she didn't have time for any of that. The only thing that defined it was that school. Even her personality was neutral. She wasn't funny, angry, outgoing, just nothing. Don't be this kind of people, please. That was the last guy the first dated. We were long distance and began being very fun, but as soon as I got to know him he was dull as dishwater. I remember trying to get him to rage with me about the end of GOT and he just said, well, it's done now. He also didn't like memes, which was the moment I knew he wasn't for me. I'm sure he's someone's other half, but he was my absolute opposite. Not able to choose anything in a game of Would You Rather. You know those types, pizza or pasta? And they'd be like, I can't choose between the two. Come on. It's just a game and nothing in your life is literally going to change if you choose goddamn pasta. Negative all the time, non-interactive, cynical, just an absolute stick in the mud that can't smile. There's a lot of different types of boring people. The ones that annoy me the most are, 1. The person who has no hobbies or passions. This person is either always just working, studying, but they're not passionate about what they're doing, they just do it. There's a difference between someone who at least loves what they do and someone who just goes along for the ride. Remember Steve Irwin? I bet if that guy was passionate about accounting he could still find a way to be the life of the party. 2. The person who just agrees with everything. This kinda goes along with the above, of not showing any passion towards anything. They just saw a movie? Oh, it was good. No discussion, no thought, just oh, it was good. They'll say that about Cats and they'll say it about Casablanca. This same person also never speaks up if the conversation goes to something heated like politics, and will rarely stand up for themselves or someone else. I sometimes wish I could prod these people a bit. Wake up. We live in a first world country and y'all walk around like zombies day in and out. Live a little, man.